Hi everyone, I decided to look into the implications of multiliteracies for intermediate and senior students. While looking into the impact that multiliteracies has on the junior high and high school level, I ran into a lot of the same articles we did for readings within this class. After running into a lot of the same content, I decided to go more towards an overview of what we went over in class and placing more emphasis towards our grade level we will be teaching. Even though at the end of the day, I do believe multiliteracies in the classroom at any grade level has a common theme of creating lifelong learners who are not only self-aware, but aware of others and the world around them. While thinking of the different ways I could display my information to you guys, I came across a website called Genially. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but it's okay. I found there was a lot of good content that you can use within this editor that can all be found within this one site. It did, however, take a little bit getting used to, but I would definitely use it in the future. For some of the slides, I have different icons just for the sole purpose of giving you a look into what type of interactive buttons they have for you to choose from. Otherwise, I most likely would have used some of the same icons for my students to know which one is for images and which one is for links and so forth. As I said, this is a very brief overview of what I want to take away the most, or what I took away the most from during our time together. To organize myself and to hopefully give you a picture of what the remaining presentation will look like, this is what we will be covering. I do want to preface that I did want to talk about the implications for intermediate and senior students, but I didn't know if I really felt comfortable talking about that without kind of saying what multiliteracies is and how to achieve it in the classroom in the same way. To start off, we began talking about multiliteracies and what it is to be a 21st century learner. We covered what multimodal text is, and we were given specific techniques on how to use them with our students. To say it in simple terms, for me, 21st century learners are what we are basically hoping to achieve from multiliteracies. We want not only our students but ourselves as educators to be adaptive, lifelong learners, competent with new technologies, collaborative, forward thinkers, and advocates for what we would like to see change in. As teachers, we can be role models for 21st century learners by figuring out how to use a smartboard, or by making changes when a lesson seems too dated for students to connect to, keeping up to date on new softwares that may interest your students, and thinking of all your students in your classroom future to make sure everyone feels seen and heard. We went over tools for creating digital portfolios, which I thought would be super helpful for a practicum, just because there were a couple websites like Flipgrids and Book Creator and Seesaw that I did hear a little bit about, but I never really knew how I could apply them in a creative way. With digital portfolios, I felt like students at the intermediate and senior level would benefit greatly because they are able to not only see their growth and show others their progress, but they can also use this work to showcase themselves for, say, scholarship applications or interviews, or applying for an internship, or showing someone their work so that they could hopefully gain an apprenticeship opportunity. For teachers, I think it's great because we're able to use these portfolios as evidence of learning, and then we can plan for certain instructions or maybe go over something that some people might be having issues with. We also went over Media Smart and how to classify competencies for digital literacies according to the three main principles, which were the use, understand, and create. If you were to click these two links at the top, you'll be able to see the grades 7 and 8 and the 9 to 12 different lesson plans that they have set out. And this is just to bring more awareness surrounding digital literacy. Intermediate students still need that guidance regarding internet safety and protection of privacy, good citizenship, and responsible internet use. By this age, they're assuming more responsibility, so we should be encouraging positive social norms and communicating positively online. They did have different modules such as cyberbullying, reputation, ethics, and I think it would be great to bring into the class someday as it's still hitting those necessary SEOs. Cyberbullying is obviously still an issue in high school, and balancing that online and offline lives is important to teach with the stresses of social media that can create. as students create their digital footprint, students do need to make sure that they're sharing content that is positive and making sure that they do get the consent of another person if they're going to be posting of another individual. TPAC is basically telling teachers that technology is not just something to use so that your students just sit and stay quiet. I think they just want to emphasize the point that teachers need to use technology with the intent to integrate it within their classroom instruction so it serves a purpose in their learning. The main takeaway I received from this reading was that we need to move beyond just looking at TPAC as individual words and more interwoven. I think this can really be achievable at the intermediate and senior level because students recognize the purpose of digital tools in their day-to-day life, and if we do treat it as something that is not only used for good behavior, they might start using their digital tools more appropriately within the class. With the 4 resource model, or the 4 roles of the leader, I found this link. I found the link I have right here at the search button really helpful in distinguishing the 4. I think if I were to assign these roles, I would need to have a digital access to the resource as well as physical copies for my students, just because I would have kind of a difficult time remembering what kind of prompts or questions would be used for each one. Maybe that's just because I'm not very, I don't know, I guess you don't really have to be good at English to know those things, but I don't have a good memory. Anyways, but yeah, I think this would be helpful for junior high and high school students because during this time they're kind of figuring out who they are as individuals and how they fit into society, and then by using these different kinds of strategies, even within just normal academic questions, they're kind of seeing their own perspectives and seeing others' perspectives and seeing whether they agree or disagree with them, therefore kind of building their own character. Critical literacy is basically combining practice and research and encouraging your students to second guess certain things, read against the grain, ask those hard questions. As for implementing critical literacy as teachers, we do need to be more aware of our own understanding and language, and notice our language choices. And I think that's something even I do really struggle with it. I think I said guys probably like 3 times within this presentation maybe, but it's something I think I need to just kind of remind myself of, and it'll get better with practice. By seeking common events or ideas from new perspectives and examining multiple contradictory viewpoints, and by working to understand those socio-political systems that underpin existing structures and activism for social change, I think we will be able to achieve that critical literacy that is meant to be accomplished in multiliteracies. So the digital storytelling was something that obviously made very positive implications for the multilingual adolescents within that summer program in the reading. I think this would be definitely something we could implement in any classroom, but especially in an EAL classroom, as they can play different roles based on their background and experience, which would be the situated practice, include active interventions that allow the learner to gain explicit information, which would be overt instruction, and then the students could then apply their knowledge in different contexts, or new contexts, I guess, which is critical framing. And then with the transformative practice, they're redesigning those existing texts and then making meaning from one context to another. Culturally relevant pedagogy is pretty similar to critical pedagogy, but specifically committed to collective and not individual. So I did find it very helpful, kind of just listing exactly what it is that students or teachers are supposed to do to achieve this. However, I did find it a lot more helpful whenever they started listing the ways in which we can communicate those high expectations. So as you can see here, those are kind of what they're trying to achieve, but the ways in which they achieved them were by using the students' names and saying hi whenever they walked into the classroom, using eye contact and proximity and body language and gestures, and arranging the classroom to accommodate inclusion. So I think the thing that I need to remember is that we all kind of gravitate towards students who we see more like ourselves, but we need to recognize that we're a teacher here and we need to be there for all of our students, and we need to make sure that we're giving everyone the same level of attention, basically, and just making sure that we're equitable and using the same kind of attitude towards one student that we are towards another. Planning and assessment was also very useful, just because we actually had that concrete, those concrete examples of how exactly we can have our students plan out their learning and then be able to assess them almost in a more smooth manner by doing so. Again, I liked this reading just because it gave us actual layouts of what we could do, like for the KWL and the concept map and the predictions, or my predictions versus what the text actually stated and so on. I found that very helpful, and you can see those links in there, but it was basically just what we had in the reading, and I found that by using those, students are able to stay accountable throughout their learning journey. And bringing ourselves back to a few classes, we did talk about the semiotic systems and using those to accomplish multimodal literacy, and we went over this a lot, but I feel like, it's pretty self-explanatory, but we just need to be always consciously aware of how we're delivering our lessons and trying to make sure that we're reaching all students and not just the students that can learn in the traditional literacy kind of setting, where it's really only written, listening and writing, and reading and writing. But I feel like if we just kind of try to stay self-aware of our own lessons and try to kind of have that little checklist where it's like, oh, I implemented this and this and that's good, and then the next day I can try to do something else a little different. I think just by trying to keep on top of yourself, by being flexible and implementing new different tools that you might not have used before, you're on the right track to implementing multiliteracies within your classroom. Thank you very much.